Okay, welcome to the program, October the 11th. You're with the Editor-in-Chief live with Estes Oil, your multi-ingredient omega-3 healthy ageing supplement backed by thousands of satisfied customers. 6 supplements in one capsule, supports joint, heart and brain health. Take as directed. Read the label. It is About Health Auckland.
Duncan, Garner, live.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. I'm Duncan, Garner. Welcome to the podcast. Great to have your company. What do you know about dementia? Could it affect you or your family? And how will you look after the expected explosion in the numbers of people set to be affected by dementia in the decades ahead? How will we cope with this? How will you look after older people? It's really concerning, and I have wanted to address this for some time on the podcast. Joining us is Kathy Cooney from Dementia New Zealand. I spoke to her a little bit earlier today. Kathy, I appreciate your time. Good evening to you.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity, Duncan.
You're very welcome. Yes. Dementia. Before we get into how bad it is and how many people have it and what are the forecasts looking like, what is it?
Yes. Well, it's actually a group of conditions. There's various forms of dementia, but all of them lead to memory loss, particularly short-term memory loss. It's a deteriorating condition, but its impact is across in people's life. So decision making, problem solving, language, communication issues often arise, and just all aspects really of daily life. And every person's experience is different.
Yes.
And so, but over time it is a deteriorating condition.
And so from what age can you get it?
6 to 8 years.
Yeah, what age can you get it? What age can you get it? And how do you notice that you might be about to, be given this diagnosis? What is it that you start to do?
Well, mostly it's people over the age of 65. And as you get older, the likelihood of developing dementia increases. So in New Zealand, approximately 1 in 100 people over 65 will develop or have dementia. But once you get over 90, that number is more like 1 in 30 people. But it's not actually part of normal aging. It is a condition, like people develop heart conditions or diabetes. But there is also another form that affects people under 65, which we refer to as young onset dementia. And sometimes that can affect people in their 40s and 50s. And there's around about 3,000 people living in New Zealand currently with young onset dementia.
Yeah, see, that interests me.
Memory loss
that
is usually
the young onset dementia. Sorry to interrupt. The young onset dementia. It's I'll look at both of them, but you say 3,000 people. Is this growing? Is this a growing awareness that younger people are getting this?
Yes, it's quite challenging to diagnose because people kind of in their minds they think, it's something that when people are older they may get dementia. So often it can be quite challenging to diagnose dementia in the under 65s. So I think now there's more understanding and more likelihood of getting a diagnosis and more awareness, but it's still quite a challenging situation. So the incidence or prevalence is not increasing in young onset, but in the older population, the numbers are increasing because baby boomers, there's just more people in that older age group and people live for longer. So that then increases the likelihood that some people will develop dementia.
Yeah, and we've got an ageing population, and that's going to balloon, in 2040, 2050. We're going to see the numbers, and that brings about huge challenges for the health professionals and for the sector in terms of beds and care and units and things like that, also for New Zealand superannuation and stuff like that. But just looking at dementia in this issue, what sort of care do you need, and what's the likelihood that we're going to be short of beds? I think we're probably short now, aren't we?
There's a lot of pressure on aged residential care beds and on dementia care beds. Just in terms of the numbers, there are around about 73,000 people living with dementia in New Zealand currently. By 2050, that's estimated to be 170, maybe even 200,000 people. So I think the work that Dementia New Zealand is in, which is the organisation I represent, is about supporting people to live well in the community and to stay in the community, stay in their own homes for as long as possible before they need to or may need to transition into aged residential care beds or dementia level care beds. So the need and demand for more services in the community to keep people connected and living in the community will continue to grow.
And so how do people suffer? Are they suffering in silence? Are they lonely? Are they unhappy? Or is it their families who are no longer recognised by these people? Are they living the sort of the heartache? How I mean, I don't have this obviously, but how do you judge this? Because I know my great aunt had it, and we would visit her for probably 10, 15 years. She didn't know any idea who we were, and certainly my dad was pretty upset about that because that was effectively like his mum. So are they living painful ends to their lives?
Yeah, we try to keep away from words like suffering.
Okay.
Because for about, on average, about 80% of the person's journey, once they the family become aware, the person becomes aware that they have dementia. And a critical aspect that I want to emphasise in this conversation is the importance of getting a diagnosis, because that helps unlock support services in the community, particularly for the care partners and the family. And information and support is so critical for the opportunities for the person with dementia, but especially also for their family, to help give them really the confidence and the resilience, and to encourage them in how they're going about supporting their person with dementia. And there are a range of support services, and of course we would love to be able to do even more in the community to support the carers, their whānau, their family, and also different activities for the person with dementia. And a key part of that is respite, day respite, and longer term respite, which does give the family a break and that care partner a break, which, as you've highlighted, is that ability for that person to be able to stay well is really, really important. And respite's a big part of that. We'd love to see more respite services. That
1 in 100 figure that you gave me earlier on, over 65s, the 1 in 100 are affected. God, these odds are low, aren't they? I mean, 1 in 100, that's a lot of people. And we just simply haven't got the beds. What happens in 20 years if we don't have the beds? Can people live with this in their own homes? Not everyone will be able to. There'll be others that are more affected by this. So what's going to happen?
So obviously with being involved in an organisation, and I acknowledge also Alzheimer's New Zealand are doing a significant work in this area, and we work in partnership. We see that having sufficient resources to support people in a community is the ideal, because everybody wants to stay at home, part of their community. Social connection is so important. But there's no doubt that there are some people that gets to a point where that person does need to go into 24/7 care. And so there's a lot of work being done around the future projections, and I quoted that number somewhere 170,000 to 200,000 by 2050. The work needs to be done now to invest both in community services, but also into how many aged residential care beds and dementia level care beds will be needed in the future to meet that demand. But that big number's out 2050, so we do have time, and the policy people do have time to respond.
Yeah, well, we know the issue now, don't we? So
currently we get about 50% funding for the services that we provide, and the other money comes from grants and donations, which we're always hugely grateful for, and in some cases bequests.
With the so there is an issue, but at least it's been identified and it's been flagged and signalled to the authorities and to those building these sorts of beds and these sorts of facilities. So that's a good thing. But why is it that I mean, obviously you've said that there's an ageing population, so that's naturally why there'll be more people suffering. But do some forms of your lifestyle bring it on? I mean, for instance, rugby players, people that get head knocks and things like that. It seems to me that so many of these guys, and some of them aren't that old, that even I know, have had a diagnosis, and they're in their 50s, 60s. So they're not really young, but they're not really old, and they all played top-level rugby, and I wonder, is this an increasing issue?
Yes, well, I think there's a lot more awareness now, and actually, Carl Heyman has been written a book and been quite bravely quite open about his journey and his story. And in the series 2 of Restaurant That Makes Mistakes, which is starting on the 14th of October, Kevin Tamati is one of the volunteers who's going to be working in Ben Bailey's restaurant. And both of them are very courageous men who are sharing their story and encouraging, wise management of head injuries resulting from sport and different sports, and particularly rugby and league. But there are identified 14 risk factors that can increase a person's risk of getting dementia. And a couple of critical messages, obviously managing head injuries and sporting and concussions. But also, if you think about the messages about keeping your heart healthy, so exercise, good nutrition, not smoking, being careful around alcohol, the same public health messages apply to brain health. And so protecting our brain health is really important. Recent research has also shown that early diagnosis of hearing loss and getting hearing aids and attending to looking after your hearing is a really important risk to manage. And because when people lose their hearing, they start to get socially isolated and they start to struggle to understand a conversation. And being socially isolated and not having enough people around and being able to be in groups, etc., is another risk factor for dementia. So the more research that's done, the more we understand about the condition of dementia and the sorts of things that can contribute. So there are cases that nobody will ever know why one of the women on Restaurant That Makes Mistakes, Lois, she was diagnosed with early onset dementia at 42, and nobody knows why it happens in some people, the same as over 60. So, but the more we look after our health,
the basic
benefits,
multiple benefits.
Apply to us in general.
Are you worried about the future, or are you heartened that the work and the building blocks and the foundations are in place? Where do you sit on that scale?
I'm very heartened about the research that's being done, and the analysis that's being done, so that we understand so much more. Extremely heartened about the potential for public health messages in relation to now understanding about brain health. And actually, each March is Brain Health Month, and our organisation will be doing a number of promotions during Brain Health Month. But internationally, around the world, it's a condition that's being paid attention to. There's research into Māori, Pacific and Asian communities now to understand more about the condition and reducing risk. And we see ourselves as working with people in the community as giving hope and encouragement and support, and particularly and significantly sharing information. We have online webinars and our website. So there's a lot of information out there. Just really encourage people to talk to their GP, get an early diagnosis so that supports can wrap around the person and the family.
But there's a couple of things I'd say on the way out. There's no such things as a cure, though, is there? There's no pill or prescription or drug or anything that's been developed yet that can deal with this?
There's medication that can help manage the symptoms, and some people respond reasonably well. So that can help people to stay, living as well as possible in the community for longer. But it's not a curative outcome. But the research is certainly continuing, seeking a cure. And obviously we, as an organisation, watch all those developments very closely.
What do those medical experts and those, the drug companies and that say? Are they looking for one, and do they think that one day that, because we evolve, right? We're sort of evolution exists everywhere, right? So we're evolving, and the drugs are getting better and better. We've seen all that with cancer treatments and so forth. You've seen AIDS; they've dealt with AIDS and that sort of thing. So what is it about dementia? Do they think one day they can sort this?
I think the companies that develop medications are very hopeful. They're obviously investing a lot of money into seeking that. But we also hold out a lot of hope for the ways that we can work with people. In many ways, the treatment methods are about social support and social systems and helping people, live as well as possible in their homes and communities and supporting their families. So they're not mutually exclusive. They go hand in hand, and it'll be a very exciting day for the world when the cure is found. But that will be some way away yet.
Be a huge breakthrough, wouldn't it? What I've seen is when families stay close with the people suffering from dementia, or people with dementia, living with dementia, the families that are close to them and they stay in touch and they're always present and they're always vibrant and busy and they're always showing love. That's really the best way to be, isn't it? To have a family engaged. The last thing you want to do is people living with dementia is to push them away or to have them further isolated, right?
Yes, that's a very, very important message, Duncan. Thank you. And for their friends, really stress how important it is for friends and all the family to keep visiting, keep supporting, and particularly, giving the care partner a break, coming and spending a day so that that primary care partner can go and do other things. But sometimes, because people don't understand, the more information the family and the friends can have, to help them feel confident about still keeping engaged and still supporting a person who was very dear to them and continues to be dear to them. But isolating the person and their family, it's actually hurtful for the person and their care partner. So just really encourage people to keep engaged and part of that person's network.
Yeah. Okay, it's been really useful, really helpful, and I'm glad we've had a chat. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll do it again at some stage in the future, but thank you so much.
Thank you for your interest.
Okay.
Thank you, Duncan.
Cheers, Kathy.
Yeah.
All right, that's us, folks. Thanks for tuning in to Duncan Garner, Editor-in-Chief Live with Lester's Oil, the premium New Zealand-made fish oil supplement backed by a study. Support joint, heart and brain health. About Health have a $500 Pro Health Pack giveaway running in October with all orders going into the draw to win. Now you can use the code Duncan for 10% off and an extra entry. abouthealth.co.nz. Take as directed. Read the label. About Health Auckland if you call 0800 999 309. There's people waiting right there and they can help you. What do you reckon, hey? Dementia, have anyone in your family, do you know anyone in your family, anyone affected?
I have my grandma. My grandmother is currently, she has Parkinson's.
Right, yes.
And I should know this, but I believe onset dementia.
As well.
Yes. So it is very, very sad. I was down in Christchurch last weekend seeing her, actually. It was lovely.
And does she remember you?
No, not really, which is a shame, especially because as well, she's in a care home at the moment, and I have to go in wearing a mask.
Yep.
And so that obviously makes it even more difficult.
Even more hard, yeah. It is sad. We had our great aunt, our dad's great aunt, his aunt, our great aunt. It was like a grandmother. She forgot us.
Yeah.
She didn't remember us. We visited her for 15 years.
Yeah.
And she would laugh at us and smile.
And it's a real shame because I was talking to people about it. Like, my grandmother physically is fit as. Like, she's awesome.
Wow. But the mind's not there.
Yeah, but it's just really all
sad.
in the brain, which is real sad.
It is sad. Yeah, get hold of Dementia New Zealand, of course, if you are looking for help in this area. They will be standing by, ready to help. That is us. This will be available as a podcast on Rover shortly, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for your support, your loyalty, your help, and all your feedback. To my team, Isaac Forrester. Thank you, guys. We'll do it all again, of course, tomorrow. And remember, this isn't a dress rehearsal. There is no curtain raiser. This is it. We live in one of the best places on earth, so get out and enjoy it. Have a great day. Take care, New Zealand. All the best.
That was Duncan Garner, Editor-in-Chief Live. Missed something on the live stream? Text Duncan to 3598 to listen back on the podcast. Want to get in touch? Call 0800 863 293.